Hello, it's Garnet again, and let's call this part 2 of the Tao of Neuroplasticity. There is a short video I just made before this, kind of an introduction. Okay, I can say this is the way I see it, and I've enjoyed some deep conversations with Ron, who I mentioned, Ron Teagarden from Dragon Herbs, about this. And, I'm made more confident by his input that I respect so much. So, when you go into life cultivation from the Taoist view, there is a principle called the Three Treasures. From the I guess you'd say the old or the archaic Chinese, the words come to us: Jing, Qi, and Shen. Jing, Qi, Shen, the three treasures in the Taoist view of life cultivation. I suppose, the one that has crossed cultural barriers is Qi, because in Western culture we've become so absorbed with the concept of energy, frankly I think hugely misunderstood, just my opinion, but the idea of equating Qi with energy is commonplace, and I can't deny it, and I don't have the wisdom to correct it, but I think there's something there that needs to be looked at more closely, because I think in the West we tend to reify the concept of energy as though it's a thing, where it's not a thing. It's an activity that we can observe or quantify in terms of its effects. But the idea that it's little marbles of something, all of this. So leaving that aside, the point is that the three treasures are fundamental to the view of reality in classic Taoism. Jing, Qi, Shen. And, I would say that this depth of appreciation, and it is deep, has come out of a close and sustained inspection of the way that nature behaves. And by nature I mean everything, not just trees, but beings and planets and everything included and beyond and back again. Let's call that nature. And these days in Western scientific-based philosophies we talk a lot about complex adaptive systems. And I think the concept of complex adaptive systems and the three treasure principle in Taoism are probably one and the same. Very different cultural interpretation, languaging interpretation, conceptual interpretation, but I think it's really two different ways of viewing the same phenomena. The way that incredibly complex systems that have more parts and pieces than anybody can ever count are all functioning well in terms of their adaptation without having a boss, that they're self-regulating, self-organizing, as long as they have the flow of energy required, and also that their continuity in terms of communication and connection is adequate. So, this is my interpretation, fortified by my dear brother friend Ron and some others, that if you look at the three treasures in Taoism, Jing, Qi, Shen, you're viewing the functions and dynamics of complex adaptive systems, which means you're also viewing the way that the neurolite has been designed. That's a very long-winded bridge. The kind of the image that's oftentimes used, and in Dragon Herbs they've used this a lot, is to understand the three treasures in a kind of a candle analogy. So the Jing, which some people will think of as the constitutional energy. Let's talk about a being right now, right? Sentient being, like a human being. That the Jing is, in the analogy, the wax of the candle, the amount and the quality of that wax. That's the body of the candle. That's the Jing. Maybe we could say the constitutional energy, or the foundational vitality and resource of the system. That's the Jing, the candle, the quality and amount of the wax. And then the flame on the candle, that's the Qi. We could say the energy. I doubt that, but let's call it the energy, right? That's the candle with the flame. So you have Jing as the candle, Qi as the flame, and Shen, sometimes translated as spirit or consciousness. I think it's hard for us to find an equivalent Western term because we are still suffering from so much Cartesian duality, mind-body duality, that we trip over our own concepts. But the Shen is, in the analogy, the light coming from the flame burning on the wax. Okay. There's a lot more to be said. As a matter of fact, it's the foundational principle in life cultivation from the Taoist view, the three treasures. And they're called treasures because of their value, their innate value, preciousness. So when you look at the three treasures as a way of appreciating the qualities and dynamics of a complex adaptive system, aka nature, also known as kind of microcosm nature, the being, in this case human beings. Three treasures, complex adaptive systems, and the neurolite. Well, you'll notice that the concept of the neurolite also uses three, and maybe they are the three treasures. So we have in the neurolite, as you know, brain gym, brain food, brain skills. Brain gym, brain food, brain skills. And I think you know the brain food is supplied by a separate but related device. We call it the nasal light. And the brain gym and the brain skills are harbored in the one main unit with the light and sound and the control box. Okay, but three. This is what I propose for you to consider. The brain gym is the representation of the Jing, because the Jing is all about that which holds everything, and that which holds everything in a complex adaptive system is the quality of the connections and communication. Without connections and communication, the flow of information that is key to self-regulation and the supply of the energy, the stimulation, the activity throughout that system are all reliant upon that base, that fundamental nature of Jing. So the brain gym I'm proposing is the neurolite aspect that would represent the Jing quality in the three treasures. The next, and you're probably seeing where I'm going with this, then we have the brain food, which is the insurance of adequate energy into the complex adaptive system, knowing that the central nervous system, the brain, and all that constitutes the brain, has adequate energy, because in this case, translating energy down to a more biochemical, biophysical, we know that cellular function is dependent on an adequate supply of ATP, and ATP is very transitory, and that's the description of Qi. Qi is very transitory. It's elusive. The idea that there has to be a flow, an input, a utilization, and an output, and very simple ways of circulating to attempt short-term storage, that's qi. And that's also ATP. You know, it's been described, I assume it's true, that we produce our own body weight in ATP every day. I'm sure that's an estimate, but you get the impression. That's a lot. Now, if you weigh 85 pounds, as I think I do at this point, I don't have double that weight at the end of the day because I'm producing that amount of ATP. No, the ATP is produced and broken down not instantly, but extremely fast, so that the accumulation is always brought down to a neutral point. What you make and what you use is almost instantaneous. So the qi aspect of the three treasures, remember Jing, Qi, Shen, what we'll call roughly the constitutional energy, the energy supply, and then the regulation. Brain Jing, brain food, Qi. And then the brain skills with the Shen is that capacity for adaptive, consciousness-based adaptation. It's that light of consciousness, the light of the aspects of awareness manifest through all the different vehicles of consciousness. That's the constant learning, the excitation of understanding, the regulation with no boss, the symphony with no conductor, except that the conductor comes out of the symphony. It's that beauty. So basically this is what I'm proposing. And I'm proposing it after having discussions with people that I think are authoritative, is that the life cultivation principle of Taoism is built around the concept of three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen, and that the complex adaptive systems of new science are really our current way of expressing the dynamics found in the yin and yang principle in Taoism, and that the three treasures are represented or expressed in the neurolite as brain Jing, brain food, brain skills. I think we're on to something fantastic here. And I mentioned in the previous video, the intro, that I believe that the future is not in pure contemporary advancement in technology and concept. Of course, we'll have that advancement, including its technology. But I think that the greatest maturation will be the review and deeper understanding as to why various pre-existing systems, fully matured in their own right, are completely in line with our modern day. So there you go. The Tao of Neuroplasticity. Think about the three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen. Think about the wax of the candle, the flame of the candle, the light from the candle, and think about brain Jing, brain food, and brain skills. Thanks. Bye-bye.